good day to you. This is Todd. I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word. We are jumping into Judges. Today we're going to cover all of chapter 18. All right, and we are talking about the Danites and having to do with Micah, who is in the last chapter. And let's see what happens here. I'm going to read this. It's kind of a long chapter, so bear with me as I read away. I got my Bible here. It says this: in those days Israel had no king, and in those days the tribe of the Danites was seeking a place of their own where they might settle, because they had not yet come into the inheritance among the tribes of Israel. We talked about that yesterday. If you want more exposition on that, listen to yesterday's episode. Verse 2, so the Danites sent 5 of their leading men from Zorah and Eshtaol to spy out the land and explore it. These men represented all the Danites. They told them, go explore the land. So they entered the hill country of Ephraim and came to the house of Micah, where they spent the night. When they were there near Micah's house, they recognized the voice of the young Levite. So they turned in there and asked him, who brought you here? What are you doing in this place? Why are you here? He told them what Micah had done for him and said, he has hired me and I am his priest. This priest is real proud about that, being hired to be a private priest. Then they said to him, please inquire of God to learn whether our journey will be successful. The priest answered them, go in peace, your journey has the Lord's approval. So the 5 men left and came to Laish, where they saw that the people were living in safety like the Sidonians, at peace and secure. And since their land was lacking nothing, they were prosperous. Also they lived a long way from the Sidonians, and had no relationship with anyone else. When they returned to Zorah and Eshtaol, their fellow Danites asked them, how did you find things? They answered, come, and let's attack them. We have seen the land, and it is very good. Aren't you going to do something? Don't hesitate to go there and take it over. When you get there, you will find an unsuspecting people and the spacious land that God has put into your hands, a land that lacks nothing whatsoever. Okay, or whatever. Verse 11, then 600 men from the Danites armed for battle set out from Zorah and Eshtaol. On their way, they set up the camp near Kiriath-Jearim in Judah. This is why the place west of Kiriath-Jearim is called Manheim Dan. And to this day, from there they went on to the hill country of Ephraim and came to Micah's house. Then the 5 men who had spied out the land of Laish said to their fellow Danites, do you know that one of these houses has an ephod, some household gods, and an image overlaid with silver? Now you know what to do. So they turned in there and went to the house of the young Levite at Micah's place and greeted him. The 600 Danites armed for battle stood at the entrance of the gate. The 5 men who had spied out the land went inside and took the idol, the ephod, and the household gods, while the priest and the 600 armed men stood at the entrance of the gate. When the 5 men went to Micah's house and took the idol, the ephod, and the household gods, the priest said to them, what are you doing? They answered him, be quiet, don't say a word. Come with us and be our father and priest. Isn't it better that you serve a tribe and a clan in Israel as a priest rather than just one man's household? The priest was very pleased. He took the ephod, the household gods, and the idol and went along with the people, putting their little children, their livestock, and their possessions in front of them. They turned away and left. Okay, so what has happened here is, you remember Micah had made these idols, and he'd hired this priest. Now the Danites come along and they're like, we're just going to take the priest and the idols, okay? And they take them, and they tell the priest, isn't it better to be a priest over all of us than just Micah here? And the priest is like, oh yeah. And so I'm sure they promised him more money. And you remember, this priest was just doing it for the money. So he had no problem just leaving. He wasn't loyal. He was loyal to the dollar or shekel or whatever they were using at that time. So they take off. Okay, they just take Micah's stuff, and they knew, these spies knew where the stuff was because they'd been there before, and they just helped themselves and took it. Okay, so let's see what happens. When they had gone some distance from Micah's house, the men who lived near Micah were called together and overtook the Danites. As they shouted after him, the Danites turned and said to Micah, "What's the matter with you, that you called out your men to fight? He replied, "You took my gods that I made and my priest and went away. What else do I have? How can you ask, what's the matter with you?" This guy's all upset about the idol, okay, that he took. He's very loyal to the idol and this priest, okay. He's ready to start a big fight because of this. Let's see what happens. Verse 25. The Danites answered, "Don't argue with us, or some of the men may get angry and attack you, and you and your family will lose their lives." So the Danites went away, and Micah seeing that they were too strong for him, turned around and went back home. Verse 27. Then they took what Micah had made and his priest and went on to Laish against a people at peace and secure. They attacked them with the sword and burned down their city. There was no one to rescue them because they had lived a long way from Sidon and had no relationships with anyone else. The city was in a valley near Beth Rabbon. The Danites rebuilt the city and settled there. They named it Dan, after their ancestor Dan, who was born to Israel, though the city used to be called Laish. There the Danites set up for themselves the idol, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of captivity of the land. They continued to use the idol Micah had made all the time in the house of God was in Shiloh. Did you catch that second to the last verse there? Verse 30. Let me reread that. There the Danites set up for themselves the idol, and Jonathan, son of Gershom, the son of Moses, and his sons were priests for the tribe of Dan until the time of captivity. Sons of Moses. The people, these Danites, they had the priests, and one of these guys was the grandson of Moses, okay? Amazing. So how quickly the generations, Moses had been like the man of God, but how quickly generations after had fallen away. And that you see that all the way through Genesis, how they fall away. So what I want you to see is how quickly people fall away and how easily they're led away. With this, Micah had these idols and this priest and everything, and the Danites go and take them. Like, oh, well, what a great thing, okay? So the influence you have, the bad influence you have, can spread, and that's what happened here. And then how quickly, it's basically how sin can overtake an area, and that's what happened here. It overtook a whole area, and this was Moses' grandson, okay, that was involved with this. So it's a kind of a sad situation. So anyway, the big thing here is watch out, because sin can overtake an area very quickly. Thanks for watching. We're going to continue on through chapter 19 tomorrow, and beginning of 19. You thought that was a bad story? That was a crazy story? This next one is even worse. It's like the book of Judges decides to end on the beginning of chapter 19 with that story. And you're going to be like, what in the world? This is a crazy house. So anyway, join us tomorrow as we're jumping into Judges. We're not skipping anything. We're just going through it. All right. Lord's blessing to you. I'll see you tomorrow. I look forward to seeing you. Lord's blessing to you.